Happy Friday, everybody out there. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. President Trump gave his speech last night. As predicted, mainstream media networks didn't cover it, don't want to accept it as truth. Even CBS News saying these are unverified, trying to say, well, officials have said our elections are perfectly fine. Well, but government officials are now saying they're not. So anyway, all of it's very predictable. The main point that I want to make today on the show is arrest somebody or none of this matters. Arrest somebody or we're basically all slaves. The longer the intel oligarchy continues to weaponize their systems against the American people with nobody held accountable for it, the American people are really slaves, and we have to bring the intel oligarchy to heel. We can't just talk about it. We actually have to do something about it. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm going to pray to that effect. Also, I'll just add that truth, or let me rephrase that, evil hates truth. I think that's what we're seeing right now. Evil hates truth. And one of the reasons evil hates truth is because truth tends to expose evil. You could also go with the biblical analogy of light and darkness, and that what does light do? Well, light exposes the darkness. If it wasn't for the light, you wouldn't be able to see the shadows. We're going to talk about this. I think it's fairly obvious. More people have already come to this conclusion. Many states throughout our country haven't actually had a trustworthy election in the last 20 years. Let's get into it. Happy Friday. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, I am with you here on LFA TV as well as the Paul Harrell program YouTube page, also over at X America News, also broadcasting in North Central Arkansas thanks to Hometown TV. Want to encourage you wherever you're watching, do all the things. Like, share, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. I would very much appreciate it. So, yesterday, President Trump, 8 o'clock Central, delivers this address on election integrity, or basically the idea that our systems are vulnerable. As I feared, there is obviously a little bit of an allergy, let's say, and I'm being charitable, a little bit of an allergy when it comes to going after the electronic voting machines. I mean, we can talk about accessing electronic voter data, but what is it they actually do with that electronic voter data? I am encouraged by a little bit of what Mark Wayne Mullen said earlier today, talking about how they actually do have backdoor keys to the voting machines. But what you're going to see, I mean, think about it from a standpoint of how powerful a tool like an electronic voting machine is in the rise of AI, with the rise of AI, and how easily these machines are manipulated, regardless of what anybody wants to tell you. Third-party source code that we don't have access to. We're basically privatizing our elections with these electronic voting machines, and I'm just not even interested in entertaining the other arguments and explanations, because with the way computers and how easily they're manipulated, and how there's a smaller, it's such a complicated system, only a small group of people really understand. If you know anything about Edward Snowden and the leaks that he revealed, over 10 years ago, then you know that all of these technologies don't exist without the governments having backdoors into them. You hear all of the time, and look, I know this hurts me as a business owner, somebody in this sphere, but you hear all the time about VPNs, virtual privacy networks, and you need to use this one or you need to use that one. Folks, you're not actually hiding from anybody. The technology is not allowed to go to the market. Edward Snowden proved this. The technology is not allowed to go to the market unless the intel oligarchs have a backdoor into it. That's just the way it goes. That's the same way. I mean, I would even throw crypto in there as well. I know a lot of people, and I'm not totally down on crypto necessarily, but the idea that it's totally, I don't buy it, it's totally anonymous and that sort of thing. It may be anonymous for a while, but it won't be for long. Anyway, I digress. It is insane. And I think this is how we have to rephrase it. And we have to be patient, I guess, with those of the older generation that, just to be charitable, maybe have a lack of imagination. It is insane to allow and trust electronic voting machines to pick our leaders. With what shred of a democratic process that we have left, the rise of these computers where the rise of the data centers that we can't even believe our own eyes in some cases. How many of you out there have been tricked by an AI video? And I know this is different videos versus ones and zeros, but the ones and zeros, far less complicated to trick people and manipulate your vote and that sort of thing on the back end. And I guess that's my biggest problem here. And I've been saying this since the SAVE Act goalposts have been here, mainly because back when John Cornyn and Ken Paxton had their initial primary race, thanks to Dr. Andrew Paquette from the Zark Files, we covered, thanks to his great reporting, that there was incredible amount of voter fraud in Bexar County, Texas, the kind of voter fraud that a voter ID would not fix. I think voter ID is good. I think it should be required. I think Indian mail-in ballots is good. I think it should be required. But none of those things are going to address what can potentially happen after you have voted. And I think that's the issue here. Now, then there's the subject of China or any foreign actor that's, trying to manipulate our elections. The Chinese, obviously, they're our enemy or they're our economic foe or however you want to say it. But we have to be careful here that we don't scapegoat the American responsibility, because what China has done, according to these documents that have now been released, can't really happen, or at least, the totality of the fraud can't happen without willing people, Americans in the United States, most of them spooks. Okay, can't happen. So we have to have a mass series of arrests, of investigations, arrests, and prosecutions for us to even entertain the idea that this is fixed. Now, back to the electronic voting machines for a moment, and you're going to have to forgive me today on the show because it's going to feel I'm trying to process all this information through a fire hose, and I've been pretty busy. There's a movement to not just get rid of the voting machines and go back to all paper ballots. There is that obvious movement where we can kind of create a red herring. We can float ideas that we're going to have software patches instead of just going back to paper ballots. And yes, you can still steal an election with paper ballots. I don't want to hear that. You have an iPhone in your pocket. It's insane. It is insane to allow these electronic voting machines to continue in any form whatsoever. Any form whatsoever. Anybody out there ever seen Battlestar Galactica? The network ships versus the unnetworked ship. One survives, everybody else is destroyed. Anyway, kind of a complicated analogy there, but you get my point. We're going to get to the reactions of all of this. I've got a lot of thoughts about it. I've got a ton of tabs to get through. So let's just dive right into it, shall we? Let's start with this tab over here. And this was from The Last Refuge. He writes, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they have not had a legitimate election in 20 plus years. We know it. They know it. They know that we know it. We know that they know that we know it. And still it is. So this is the reports that Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat, Arizona, won his election by 78,000 votes. We now know that Arizona processed 112,000 duplicate registrations. Duplicate registrations. And so a lot of what was said yesterday and a lot of what is coming out today is stuff that many of us have already known. That's why the mainstream media didn't cover it, because they know that these claims are out there and they exist as mouthpieces of the intelligence community. I mean, if the American intel oligarchy was actually brought to heel, all of the major networks would have covered President Trump's speech last night. Let me say that again. If the American intel oligarchy had been brought to heel under the Trump administration, all of these networks would have carried this. And I would also add, there would have been pre-dawn arrests today. Early this morning, there would have already been. I mean, that's again, I will say I'm grateful that this is coming out, but at the same time, I mean, this election integrity report, Tulsi Gabbard has been on this since day one. The election integrity report has been on Donald Trump's desk since June of last year. You've had a whole year to go ahead and do the investigations and get all the indictments ready. And now Kash Patel says we're going to go after, based on what Trump said, we're going after anybody that's defrauded the American people. Okay, all right, well, now, from a political standpoint, what happened last night with President Trump was really the beginning of the midterms. So from a political standpoint, this was the first cannon blast, if you will, to the left. And we're now going to make this. We're now going to make the midterms about election security. Will the Senate do anything? No, I don't believe they will. I still don't believe they will. Even if they tie it to the NDAA or whatever they're going to do, I still don't really believe it's going to happen. And I also am wondering if it would even fix the problem. Maybe if it does happen, it happens to prevent Trump from declaring. Listen, let me tell you something right now. Donald Trump, President Trump, needs to use the Insurrection Act, declare a national emergency, invoke the Insurrection Act, and do what needs to be done. And, let them all scream, let them all moan about democracy. I'm sorry, but, at a certain point, people are just going to give up and quit voting. And that's what this whole thing has been. This is either going to be an exercise in restoring the republic by punishing the enemies of the country, or a giant exercise in demoralizing the entire country to where, again, like the thumbnail says, are we free or are we actually slaves? Because as long as the intel oligarchy continues to just be free and there's never any real convictions, then we are slaves that have voted for change, but we can't get it because they're just too big. They're just too powerful. There's too much blackmail that everybody has on each other. So John Solomon is taking some criticism because a lot of people don't trust him. Let me say that again. It just is what it is. John Solomon of Just the News. And look, I covered stories over at Just the News just the other day. I've got no problem using them, to report the news. But it is a fact. I just think it's an obvious fact. John Solomon has reported on a lot of accountability that's coming that never happens. And so it is reasonable to at least suspect that John Solomon is just basically a limited hangout, kind of a guy to create some red herrings to keep the status quo. I mean, I don't know if you remember the whole John Durham thing. I mean, that was just like, okay. I mean, I was totally convinced, that we were going to have real accountability with the whole John Durham thing. And so, I think John Solomon's reporting is useful, but I also wonder if he is not, in a way, controlled and being used, whether actively or whether subconsciously. I don't know. But John Solomon said this 7 hours ago. This is a classic weapon of mass distraction straight from the Soviet playbook. The speech wasn't about disagreement in intel community. It was about 220 million voter files falling into the hands of China and having election machines for 6 years that were vulnerable to foreign attack. to where Sundancer, Last Refuge, says, quote, the speech wasn't about disagreement in intel community. The first comment here from somebody, I don't even know, Evan B. says, Solomon is clearly running an op for the intelligence community. I don't know if that's true, but Emerald Robinson is certainly skeptical. And, of course, she has an entirely different narrative with her reporting. Well, it's not actually entirely different, but she has a much more thorough and condemning narrative about how the 2020 election was stolen and how the 2024 election was not stolen. Dealing with Elon Musk, Serbian computer labs, Venezuelan software. I mean, I don't have to go through it, but you guys have heard her. I'm sure you've heard a lot of what her reporting is. So she highlights this clip from John Solomon. Let's take a listen. This is John Solomon talking to reporters.
We're not telling the president.
Did you acknowledge that there were no votes changed in 2020?
All I can acknowledge is what the intelligence shows, right? I only know the intelligence community has zero evidence that someone has flipped, that a foreign power flipped a vote in 2020, 22, or 24.
And you have you're able to acknowledge.
We're not through all the documents.
You're able to acknowledge that Venezuela has not tampered with voting machines in the United States.
No, the intelligence is very clear. They did it on their own machines. Why is it important that they did it on their machines? Their machine protocols are the same as America. Why? Because for a long time they did exactly.
And so the 2020 election was in fact the results as we, the American public.
I'm still researching, so let me. This is the first.
But there's no intelligence.
Not yet.
There is no intelligence at the election.
So, I mean, this just hands the left the victory that they want, that this whole thing last night was a much ado about nothing, and, the 2020 was still the most secure election, and that Joe Biden got 80 million votes, which, of course, he obviously did not get more votes than Barack Obama running a campaign from a basement. I mean, we all know that, but see, the left... And so this is why Emerald Robinson says, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly when you realize that John Solomon was placed in the White House by the intel agencies to save the voting machines. Because he says there, so no votes were flipped. So our contention over on the right is that this was a potpourri of ways to steal the election. Yes, with mail-in voting, and yes, being able to alter voting machines. Yes, having backdoors into these machines. Yes, that they can connect to the internet when they're not supposed to. There's several ways you can do it in our current system. So it's just anyway. We're gonna get more into it. Mark Wayne Mullen did say some things that I think I was actually kind of shocked at some of the stuff he said. But the left is looking for any little thing to parse their way to, tell their, to continue to never have to admit that they lie. And it is kind of funny, right? Fox News is now covering this now, but when it actually happened in 2020, nothing to see here. Everybody shut up. We'll call Arizona immediately. Really let you know who you can trust. So John Harold writing, during the FBI's 2020 Muskegon GBI Strategies investigation into fraudulent voter registration, the FBI did a database check of just 20 randomly selected voter registration applications from the roughly 10,000 that were flagged as potentially fraudulent. 65% of randomly selected ballots were fraudulent. 7 contained completely fabricated information. 4 contained a real name, but date of birth, driver's license, or social security number didn't match. 1 had a real name, but middle name didn't match. 1 never lived in Muskegon and had a fabricated address. Only 7 had correct information. No criminal charges resulted from this investigation. These declassified documents are a treasure trove of little nuggets like this. And then, of course, we have the NSA. General Michael Flynn writing, whoever instructed this NSA employee, see below, to deliberately massage CCP election interference in addition to hiding it from Donald Trump should be arrested immediately. Better yet, maybe they should come forward and give up whoever directed them to do so, and their sentence might be mitigated. Also, anything related to U.S. elections will have the full visibility and knowledge of the DIRNSA commander, Cybercom, which is why I've also called for the arrest and questioning over their role to lie to the President of the United States and undermine the Constitution of the United States. deliberately massaged. So you can read this right here. Note to election threat, 45-day ICA China section drafting team. We have deliberately massaged our one pending PDB to avoid any direct links to the election. The massive report we have been waiting has been chopped into 13 reports that will likely not get out until late next week. Many/all of them will be cross-posted or downgraded so that can be more readily incorporated into the 45-day piece if needed. So we're going to massage the intelligence. Now, what we reported yesterday on the show, that there was an email where some FBI lady is saying, we have her name now, that she's essentially running the shadow government and Donald Trump's never going to find out. That actually was that those were in the documents. We're going to get to that. The DOJ, Nick Sorter, needs to track down and jail every journalist in America. So there was also this fact of the documents here. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them to write more negative articles about him.
The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting. The name of the person doing the quote is now under review.
A few of your comments from the Elevate chat here. Majogo says, we watched them flip the numbers electronically right on our TV in 2020 in Michigan. They took all the numbers Trump had and switched them over to Biden. People saw this with their own eyes. So just be aware. There obviously is going to be a movement to create a limited hangout. A big conspiracy theory, where China's involved. China can't do this without the intel community here. They can't do this without the oligarchy covering up, enabling it, and everything else. And honestly, folks, the whole thing was us. COVID was us. We've talked about this before. If you really think about this steal in 2020, and we know now what we know about China and how, yes, the virus came from China, but all of the funding and the gain of function started in our own government and then was outsourced to China via Anthony Fauci and EcoHealth Alliance, well, then something becomes very clear, doesn't it? That parts of the United States government are actually responsible for millions of deaths in America, millions of people becoming addicted, millions of people taking their own life. I don't know if it's millions, but people becoming addicted, people being depressed, people taking their own lives. Anyway, all of it. We're responsible for it. And then they used the pandemic to steal the election. I mean, part of the basis of one of the reasons this was so easy was because of the mail-in ballots. So I don't deny that the mail-in ballots need to be looked at. They do. But so does the thing, the one thing even to this day, you're allowed to criticize the mail-in ballot policy, but when you start going into the machines, it's like you're talking about Bigfoot to people, and they don't want to talk about it. Somehow that's the thing you're not allowed to criticize, and that's how you know you're really over the target. When the mainstream media goes in overdrive to criticize somebody like Mike Lindell, who was just a pillow salesman that thought, oh my gosh, I think the voting machines did this. And what happens? Well, I mean, he gets sued into oblivion and eventually comes out okay, because guess what? He had the truth on his side, and evil hates truth, and evil attacks truth, and that's what we're seeing. Generally, this is a positive development, what happened yesterday, but again, either we have arrests or none of this happens, and none of this is going to save the country unless we actually have accountability here. Catherine Herridge, reveals a terrifying possibility that China may have the ability to build a digital dossier on millions of Americans. Many people think AI's already done that. There's different theories, by the way, on this. Not to get too conspiratorial or too much of a rabbit trail, but there's a lot of people that have observed the phenomenon that you haven't even said what you're thinking, and then you see an advertisement for it. Some people think that somehow you've already got nanobots that's in your system transmitting from an IP address or something. Some people think that, but other people have speculated that with all of your search history, with all of your online data, with everything about it that is being collected by our governments all across the world, that they're able to take you and create an artificial intelligence version of you, and they get along, and the artificial intelligence version of you actually predicts what you're going to think, and so they've got these little AIs of our own digital histories, digital habits, and they're able to then craft ads based on what the AI of you thinks you're going to think about next. I know that sounds crazy, but there are people trying to figure out this phenomenon when you don't even talk about it where your phone can hear you. That happens all the time. People are now just accepting this. I accept it because I still carry around one of these surveillance devices at all time. But people are trying to figure out how it happens when you don't even talk about it. Just FYI. But anyway, back to this. Harridge warns that China's collection of data goes far beyond voter rolls, and the scariest part is what that information could be used for. And we have this clip right here.
China is one of the biggest collectors of data on the planet. So if you take that 220 million voter rolls and you combine it with something called the SF-86, those are the security clearance applications that were compromised back in 2015, 22 million files. And then you combine it with all of the health information that's been hacked, you can really build this kind of digital composite of an individual. And you can use that for, voter registration fraud. You can use that for identity theft. And significantly, you can also use it to recruit American citizens to your efforts. So it's not just about the collection of the data around the vote. Exactly. Right.
Yeah, it is espionage. That is what we're dealing with. But as J.D. Vance said the other day on Joe Rogan, I mean, this is just what is always going to happen. This is just kind of the status quo of all nations. I've got a text message here from Navy Vet, who is a good follow over on X, got a great YouTube channel. He's watching the show right now. He says, can Tucker Carlson now sue Fox for wrongful dismissal over Dominion machines? Watching your show now. That's a really great question. I mean, I don't know if he'd be interested in doing that. Maybe. Yes, and I've got this. I've got that clip here in my stack of Hillary. Hillary coming out and basically saying China should do it. China should do it. Right. And Rob and I talked yesterday. Obviously, China has a motivation to do this because of the trade wars, because of the tariffs and everything else. But the cover-up, the intel oligarchy covering all of this up, has got to be addressed. Let's see. I've got so many tabs here, and you'll have to forgive me today. I've been extremely distracted with some other things, and so a lot of these tabs are totally discombobulated, unlike they normally are. But I will say this, okay? Because I'm to the point where we got to scrap all these agencies anyway. But John Harrell does point out that in some of these documents, it appears there are at least honest people that are trying to get America's intelligence and just be totally unbiased about it. Here's an email that says, quote, "Is it just me, or are they basically saying we should self-censor our assessment on preference because it could be misused? They do have a preference, that they're acting on that preference, and we assess they think it's probably not worth the risk. If we can't communicate our thinking clearly, maybe we should quit and go home." So this is from a frustrated intelligence officer getting these directions saying, "Oh, don't report that China was involved in the 2020 election. I mean, we got Trump on the ropes. He lost, and Now, of course, this was before the election. This email actually dated September 3rd, but you can imagine that was the mentality that certainly happened as things moved forward. Liz Harrington, quote, according to the CIA, in 2020, Venezuela created virtual machines to replicate legitimate voting machine results, then substitute manipulated data while making votes appear to originate from legitimate machines. This sounds exactly what happened in Fulton County in 2020. So these documents show what Venezuela has done in their own elections. Now we just need to connect the data points to Venezuelan software, making it to the shores of Florida in 2003, 2004. We need to go back to the Arnold Schwarzenegger administration in California, where Arnold Schwarzenegger was given a proposal from what would eventually become Dominion or Smartmatic or one iteration. It was a different company back then, same idea. They apply to run the elections. They get denied because the California had a law saying that they had to independently verify the codes. They come back and they say, I think this code is designed to steal elections. So they get rejected. Their initial contract gets rejected. So they wait until Governor Jerry Brown becomes governor of California. And then there's an actual law that passes through the California Assembly that changes how many questions the state has to ask, lowers the standard, and boom, then they get the contract. And then it just started to flood in all of these different areas. And so even John Solomon saying, yeah, it is relevant because we know that they have that same capability and they did it in their own country. Did they do it here? And so I guess I am frustrated that we didn't have somebody come out yesterday and say they changed a vote. We have the proof. They switched the votes. They can control our voting machines. Now, Mark Wayne Mullen, again, is saying something similar. We'll get to that in a minute. Fulton County ordered over 1 million extra absentee ballots with stubs or envelopes in the 2020 election and then lied about it. Total number of ballots ordered in addition to what was mailed to voters was 1,058,910. This should tell you everything you need to know. Fulton County ordered 1,058,910 absentee ballots at the last minute without envelopes, without stubs, and after they could have realistically been mailed, the extra ballots were not ordered for the reasons given, and what ballots from the order that remained after the election were destroyed. For reference, a total of 528,000 ballots were cast for the 2020 general election, and of those, approximately 148,000 were absentee, the majority of which were sent by Runbeck Election Services directly to the voter. Because of the absentee fulfillment program, there was simply no reason for Fulton County to purchase a large number of printed ballots. Fulton County then tried to conceal the order and denied the existence of corresponding documents. In response to a narrowly targeted open records request, Fulton County returned no responsive records. It wasn't until we provided Fulton County's accounting code for the invoice, funding line, and invoice number that Fulton County acquiesced and finally produced the records. The number of additional absentee ballots ordered and received, 1 million, far exceeded the total number of Fulton County's registered voters, including both active and inactive. According to the Election Assistance Commission, EAC, Fulton County's total number of registered voters in 2020 was 836,000, or 113.8% of the citizen voting age population. Fulton County was required to have 83,656 emergency ballots available, not over 1 million. Georgia's absentee, provisional, and emergency ballots are indistinguishable. The same ballot serves all three purposes, which is ripe for exploitation. And it just goes on and on and on. But this is what people are finding out. 30,000-foot view, Mike Cernovich. Birthright citizenship means China won't need to hack our elections. They can set up ballot harvesting boxes and legally vote. Thanks to Amy Coney Barrett, we have lost our sovereignty because she refused to resign and instead folded to left-wing threats. Then we have Nikki Flores. Here she is. This was what we reported yesterday, just based off of leaks This is the shadow government girl who needs to be in handcuffs right now. Right now. Meet Nikki Flores, FBI analyst who bragged about running the shadow government inside the Bureau, according to a just-released declassified document, and she is now the director of insider risk at Microsoft. Here's I am basically, quote, Nikki Flores, FBI, 8:02 a.m. I'm basically running a shadow government across the FBI at this point. And then we get, of course, the mainstream media. Listen to this. CBS News, President Trump claimed mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt, while advocating for his Save America Act, which would ban mail-in voting, except in certain cases. Fact-check rating, false. There's no evidence of widespread mail-in ballot fraud or corruption in states where no excuse, absentee, or universal vote-by-mail is offered. The Brookings Institute, see, here's the deal. CBS News is the all-seeing eye, intelligence, oligarchy, satanic messaging news media platform, okay? That's who CBS News is. The little eye at the little all-seeing eye at the pyramid, gonna tell you what to think, and in this case, they are just a mouthpiece of the intelligence community. And again, I'll say this again: if the intel community had been brought to heel under President Trump, these networks would have carried his remarks last night instead of refusing. And I'll also say this. You know how legendary it would have been if Trump would have just used the emergency broadcast system to do this? I don't care. I don't care how, well, people would maybe think this is a little extreme if he did that. Folks, we are at the extreme. We were living at very extreme times. We're living in very extreme times. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because I know what happens next. I know what happens next if the left, the anti-Christian left, gets back into power. If they get back into power without accountability, without any incentive, like James Comey going to jail, not for 8647, but for actual treason, James Clapper, Brennan, all these guys, and then, you know, people like Nikki Flores or whatever, you know, some of these low-level people that, you know, love the fact they're the real puppet masters, you don't even know their names. Then they'll have no incentive to not just be full mask off communism. Do you believe in God? Well, you better pledge your allegiance to the state, because we don't like anyone that believes in a higher power than us. It is going to be that simple. It's going to be that simple of an equation. Now they're going to dress it up with some other language, but that will really be the crux of the next iteration of whatever America even is now. Full mask off communism, where people that believe in God, the triune God of the Bible, people that believe in Jesus Christ, will be the biggest threat to the government. And that's where this is heading as we continue to, you know, if we continue to not have any accountability. And again, CNN did the same thing.
He did the same thing as this network, CNN, last night. The newsrooms monitored the speech, evaluated what was actually newsworthy, looked at the documents Trump was declassifying, and then reported on what happened. NBC and ABC both went on the air with special reports to explain that the speech had happened and to summarize what Trump had said, but most importantly, to contextualize it and fact-check it, just as CNN did. Now, Trump was ominously claiming that the networks were part of a plot, but the only real plot here, the only intention, is to remain reality-based and truth-based. Trump's election lies led to violence after the 2020 election. So this is a subject that really does warrant extra care and attention by journalists. And frankly, some network executives felt that it would be dangerous to just air Trump's speech live, in full, unedited, without knowing what he was going to say ahead of time. That's where we are in America. And we have been here before. I remember during some of Trump's COVID-19 briefings in 2020.
Sorry, let me apologize. I'm sorry for wasting your time. Interestingly enough, though, I don't know if the last refuge doesn't like Catherine Herridge. I guess he doesn't. This is just something that I couldn't get over this morning as I was like thumbing through the articles, and that's that the last refuge is referring to Catherine Herridge as the elf on a shelf. She does look like the elf. We don't do elf on a shelf. I didn't grow up doing it. Obviously, we don't do that. But I know what the elf on the shelf looks like. Once you see through the elf on a shelf's dramatic acting, you realize the intent of the performance. So I guess he's kind of not buying some of this. Sometimes he's cryptic, and I don't quite understand. I meant to do this just for reference. Hang on one second. Yeah, elf on a shelf. Yeah, so you can even see it. No, you can't. Well, here's this right here. Yeah, so the last refuge, you see kind of there. It's calling Catherine Herridge the elf on a shelf. I find that very hilarious. Then we have this email. Let's see here, October 6th of 2020. Hi, thanks to you for sharing your thoughts on the last COI meeting. It sounded to me like your take on this is that at least somewhat similar to ours. I felt like jumping in to agree with you, but I've burned enough political capital arguing with the CIA and FBI about this that I thought it might be more productive for me to sit the discussion out. The positions are not really that far apart, so I'm not sure why so many in the community want to close down the possibility that China might have done or be doing something. But hopefully this piece sparks some more thought and discussion. So you've got to entertain the possibility that, I mean, look, what I've been seeing on this show for a while when it comes to the intel oligarchy, the FBI, the DOJ, all of this stuff, is that they are full of career communists. And Dianne Feinstein was being driven around by a Chinese spy. Eric Swalwell was having an affair with a Chinese spy. The idea that China owns our government has not been lost on me. I did extensive research on this back when I was on radio in Arkansas. I uncovered a Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scandal in my own state of Arkansas with our governor at the time, Asa Hutchinson, and his son, Asa Hutchinson III. I've been raising the alarm about how China owns our own politicians for a very long time. Specifically here in Arkansas, the governor at the time, Asa Hutchinson, had a law firm with his face on it called the Asa Hutchinson Law Firm that his son also worked for. At the same time, Asa Hutchinson had given Chinese companies, at least 3 of them, sweetheart deals to come to Arkansas to build factories. Those same companies were then contracted with his own law firm that he later said his son was running. His son was making money off of the same Chinese companies from the Shandong province that our own government was giving taxpayer dollars to come and work here, to locate here for, economic development. So this is a widespread problem, the idea that China controls a lot more than people would say. So to point out, hey, I think China's up to something no good here, and then the intel oligarchy comes back and says, don't mention that, you got to assume those guys are taking money from China. You have to assume those guys are taking money from China. But anyway, I mean, you can go look it up. I even wrote a piece. I wrote a piece detailing this a couple of years ago, recapping what I had covered back in 2017, 2018, 2019, whenever it was. I rewrote a piece over at nationalfile.com about Asa Hutchinson and his escapades or whatever with his law firm and the government of China. It was very weird. It was very similar to the whole Joe Biden, Hunter Biden thing. Asa Hutchinson III was accompanying his dad on trips to go meet with, I'm going to say, you assume CCP, CCP officials, yes. Was in photos. It was just very, 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 very similar. No big deal. Just our own IC discussing how Venezuela and Smartmatic manipulated election results using pre-programmed machines and virtual machines. Yeah. So that's what we already covered. But John Harold saying the Save America Act does not fix this, which is what I've been saying. We've been saying this for a while. Hey, I want the Save America Act, by the way. I think every day that it's not passed out of the Senate just further solidifies the fact that John Thune is working for the other side. Are working, obviously for the Uniparty. They don't want this. They don't want this. Republicans don't want secure elections. They don't want no mail-in ballots. They don't want voter ID to be required. They also obviously don't want the voting machines to be rigged, or to be fixed, or to be not fixed, but like abolished. They certainly don't want that, because people like John Thune know. I'm sorry, this is my opinion. People like John Thune know that their town runs on blackmail. And if they're in a competitive primary race, well, the people don't want to have to get new blackmail on the new guy. So Republicans benefit from the rigging of elections in Republican primaries. Republican incumbents benefit from the election status quo because I believe there is cheating in Republican primaries. It's not just at the general election. I think Republicans know this. And I think that's why they don't want to do anything to fix it. Yes, that would mean that there are some pretty evil guys, and they are. There are, but I mean, they're not just like stumbling into evil. They may have started out that way, but now they embrace it because they think they have to, because they think they've gone too far, and the only way out is through. But then again, they never get out. They're never gonna get out. Only way to get out is with actual repentance and to go back the way you came. To turn from your wicked ways. Here's another one from these classified documents. In late August 2020, the Chinese government had produced a large amount of fraudulent United States driver's licenses that were secretly exported to the United States. The fraudulent driver's licenses would allow tens of thousands of Chinese students and immigrants sympathetic to the Chinese Communist Party to vote for U.S. presidential candidate Joe Biden, despite not being eligible to vote in the United States. China had collected private U.S. user data from millions of TikTok accounts to include name, ID, and address, which would allow the Chinese government to use real U.S. persons' information to create the fraudulent driver's license. There's no way, folks, that this happens without our own intel communists, our own communists. We got our own communists. We've got communists in our government communicating with communists in China. There's no way these schemes work without them being in communication and cahoots and conspiracy. I mean, conspiracy theorists were largely proven right yesterday, but there's so many more threads to tug at here to actually get to the bottom of it, which we know what the bottom of it is, and generally that is that electronic voting machines have got to be abolished. Abolish AI data machines. Makes no sense. So the People's Pundit pollster Rich Barris says it's not a nothing burger, though a lot of the allegations have already been publicly verified. However, directing people to investigate for wrongdoing is not the ideal posture. People expected those, and this is what I said earlier, people expected those investigations to have been done by now. Lack of accountability is the Achilles heel for the administration, and there is significant risk if nothing is done to hold these people accountable. What's the significant risk? In my opinion, Christians in boxcars. I'm just going to say it. That is not, I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not trying to be sensational. That is my sincerely held belief. That is my honest belief. That's the risk. The risk is a reversal of power, and because we didn't go to the hilt, because we didn't go... By the way, did you guys check out my sword? Did you guys see the segment at the end of the show yesterday? I'll have to play it for you later today in the show. But I got a sword. You see this? I got a sword for my birthday. I showed it to Rob yesterday. He wasn't impressed. Rob, if you're listening, that was a great segment. We actually clipped up that segment, and it's up on the YouTube channel if you want to see it. We had a great time. But I showed it to Rob yesterday, and Rob was he wasn't that impressed. But at one point, Rob, I have to show it to you later. But I was trying to get Rob to say, listen to it. When you pull the sword out, it makes the sound that a sword should make when it's being unsheathed. And I said, listen to it. And anyway, he put his ear up to the blade like it was a seashell. I tried to listen to it. Oh, man, it was great, though. I had a lot of fun. Anyway, he finishes up here, and this is true. You can't indict the People's Republic of China. We can't indict the Communist Party of China, but you can indict the complicit conspirators. The people who were complicit and the conspirators. We can indict those people. We can go after those people. Will we, though? Chinese embassy. Speaking of China, Chinese embassy, they're like, well, this wasn't us. This isn't us. What are you talking about? Who, me?
Well, Tony, there is a lot in here. It's impossible for us to fact check each thing that was said, but on the specific thing in regard to China that you raised, the president was informed when he was president in his first term in a classified memo on January 7th, both the assessments regarding interference, and that was also public prior to that date. So he was aware, and we reported on this network at the time in regard to the assessments as to which foreign countries favored which election candidates. He seems to be alleging there that China actively tried to undermine him and even referenced wanted to get him to resign at one point. Ahead of this, I did reach out to Chinese officials who were already prepared with a pre-buttal here. I'll read it to you.
Blah, 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 blah. President Trump has been saying for years that you stole the diamonds, you're going to have to give the diamonds back. He's been saying this for years. We've all been saying it for years. We all know what happened. And I kind of wonder if Tulsi Gabbard is ever going to speak on this. Are these all the findings? Is this everything that was in that report? Or are there still things that are being held back? John Harold again. This is wild. Here is some of the intelligence the CIA had detailing how China tried to defeat President Trump. They paid U.S. journalists to write more negative stories about Trump. We need the names. I agree. Inflict negative financial consequences against states who voted for President Trump by levying tariffs on exports to China. Invited all sorts of people with all expense-paid trips to China to get them hooked on China so they could later hit them in the wallet to force them to talk with President Trump about tariffs. Applied pressure to financial supporters of President Trump's re-election campaign. All that is to be expected. Again, you go back, though, like what's the result of all of this? Well, the result of all of this is, John Solomon is up there saying, well, no, we don't have any evidence yet that they actually flipped votes. Okay. We got to save the machines, I guess. Got to save the machines. So War Clandestine, who I follow, and certainly liked his, still really appreciate his reporting on the Ukraine bioweapons labs. I mean, this guy's been totally vindicated a million times over now, whether it's Victoria Nuland telling Marco Rubio there are biolabs, or whether it's Tulsi Gabbard's, last-minute report that there are bioweapons labs. He says, my guess as to what happens, Trump will use this declassification to pressure the Senate to pass the SAVE Act. The Senate will not pass it, and after Trump proves that he has exercised every option before going the executive route, he will invoke the Insurrection Act, let's hope so, and save the Republic. What I know for absolute certain is that the status quo will not remain. Either the Senate step up and do what they need to do, or Trump will do it himself. Here's the deal. The SAVE Act is not going to fix so much of what we have seen in these documents. Fixes a lot of it, but not all of it. And that's the thing. They may pass the SAVE Act to keep Trump from trying to actually go after the voting machines. It's definitely possible. There's big picture stuff there. Yeah, people notice. I know Fox has been covering this. Fox has been covering this, okay, throughout the day. But last night after the speech on Hannity, people noticed something.
Anyway, I should thank you so much for that summary. We appreciate it. We have a ton of other breaking news and developments tonight. One starting in the Middle East. This is a Fox News.
So they report on it, and it's like, anyway, back to Middle East fatigue. Back to Middle East fatigue. It's just an observation some people made. I find it humorous. Because honestly, I mean, like, that is the legitimate critique of this is like, our country is got so many problems here domestically, and yet we are just, every time we think we're out, we get pulled back in. But here's Nikki Flores. Nikki Flores, who was then the FBI's counterintelligence division, wrote the email about, I'm running the shadow government. Here's the thread. Let's see here. Let's go in Flores here. Let's see here. Who is the shadow government? This is by Callan Deese. Who is the shadow government woman Trump referenced tonight? Trump pointed to a newly declassified FBI text in which Nikki Flores wrote, I'm basically running a shadow government across the FBI. Who is she? Deputy Assistant Director in the FBI's Counterintelligence Division, according to online records. The text surfaced amid disclosures about the internal FBI handling of intelligence. Flores was among officials involved in the FBI's September 2020 recall of intelligence information report based on a confidential source allegation that China was producing fake driver's licenses for fraudulent mail-in ballots. Important, the report contained an allegation. It was not proven. The episode became controversial because internal emails suggested FBI officials worried the intelligence could conflict with then-Director Christopher Wray's public assurances about foreign election interference. Senator Chuck Grassley later released emails related to the matter. Flores also figured into the FBI's handling of the Senate investigation into Hunter Biden. Grassley and Johnson say Flores and another FBI official gave them an August 2020 briefing that was later leaked to falsely portray their investigation as Russian disinformation. They accused the FBI of using the disinformation label to downplay derogatory information about Hunter Biden and shut down investigative activity, a charge the senators want Flores to address in a transcribed interview. Flores was not uniformly soft on China. In 2022 FBI video, she called the People's Republic of China by far and away the greatest immediate and long-term threat. Her remarks in that video were blunt. Flores has since been forced out of the FBI by Patel. Her LinkedIn profile identifies her as a Microsoft Director of Insider Risk. I've reached out to Microsoft Comms and will be keeping you updated. Then he says, got a little bit of a source tips overnight, and one of them flagged to me that Nikki Flores succeeded Jennifer Moore, former SAC of Intelligence Incident Response Division, who helped remove FBI whistleblower under Biden, including Kyle Serafin. What's more is that Flores worked under former Assistant Director in Charge Stephen Jensen, who led several prominent J6 investigations and was fired from the Bureau by FBI Director Kash Patel in August. These people think that they are never going to get caught. They think that they are essentially emperors. They get to run the government. They don't have any sort of allegiance to the commander-in-chief if they don't like him or they didn't vote for him. They don't care about the country at all. And we all suffer from it. Evil hates truth. There's a lot of people that are upset today. We're going to go forward. We're going to keep pulling away at these threads, and we're going to actually continue to shine light on the darkness as much as we can. And we're going to also continue to pray that the people that are in positions of power to do something about this will do the right thing, even if it means they lose personally. Just like Clarence Thomas, I would rather die than to not go through this process. I will not allow you guys to intimidate me. I don't like bullies. I would rather you kill me than for me to bow out of the process. That's the type of people we need. If there's anybody like that left among the communists in the IC, we've got to have them. We've got to have them step up. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back in a minute. I've still got to get to Hillary Clinton, who basically said after the whole Russian collusion hoax was in its infancy, she even begged China. Remember when the audio where she begged China to hack our elections? So anyway, gonna go to break here in just. We'll be back here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. This is the Paul Harrell Program.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
Why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept! Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Happy Friday once again, everybody out there, broadcasting live from the state of Arkansas. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend and get to take some time off, relax. Hope you have a blessed Lord's Day as well, obviously. Yeah, so, I mean, we're kind of sifting through the fallout. I mean, I know you guys have probably heard about this all day long. I get it. It is the biggest story out there right now. Basically, who instructed an NSA employee to obfuscate CCP election interference and hide it from the President of the United States. But then CBS News comes out and says, but it wasn't hidden. We know it wasn't hidden. They don't care that there's somebody trying to hide intelligence from the president in the communistic intel oligarchy. So, I mean, and again, you're never going well, here's the deal. I'll go back. You're never really going to convince the left until you go after their information sources that are just tools of the intel oligarchy. If the intel oligarchy had been brought to heel, they would have carried Trump's speech last night. But they haven't. And it's really sad, too, because they're these other, big networks, they cloak themselves in objectivity to a lot of these people out there still to this day, even though, we all know that they're controlled and they're hacks, but it's really sad. Here's another snippet from President Trump's speech, which we really haven't gotten to a lot of Trump's actual speech.
Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries.
Let's stop there. Our machines are vulnerable to hacking and corruption. We all know it because we saw it in 2020. And so while there may not be some, forthcoming smoking gun about specifically with 2020, I wish there was in terms of unofficial government admission and then arrests. The president is saying the machines are not good. The president has been calling for paper ballots for a very long time. You have to give him credit on that issue. He has been stumping for paper ballots.
Countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail.
Yep. So this is Georgia, proactive state user states. Georgia has 42,000 active voters who are dead. They've got 2,500 illegals or non-citizens. You got Ohio, who's got 59,000 active voters who are dead, 769 non-citizens. Tennessee, 37,000 who are dead, 1,000 who are not citizens. Texas, 111,000 that are dead. 2,000, 2,200, almost 3,000 in Texas are on the rolls that are non-citizens. Now, you got to remember, it was Elon Musk. We never got really to the bottom of Elon Musk's claims, the limited audits they did of the illegal immigrants that were signed up for Social Security and then funneled into voter registration schemes. Here's a flashback. Tulsi Gabbard said in one of the cabinet meetings a couple of years ago, she said this.
And you've also found many bags of information. I think they call them burn bags. They're supposed to be burned, and they didn't get burned, having to do with how corrupt the 2020 election was. And when will that all come out?
Mr. President, I will be the first to brief you once we have that information collected. But you're right, we are finding documents literally tucked away in the back of safes in random offices in these bags and in other areas, which again speaks to the intent of those who are trying to hide the truth from the American people and trying to cover up the politicization that was led by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and others that have caused really immeasurable harm to the American people and to our country.
Great job. Thank you. We look forward to hearing it. The public.
So was this the culmination of this, or was just this? Was this the first step? I really don't know. You might even argue that this is one of the reasons. I know Tulsi resigned because of her husband. I don't dispute that, but certainly this is one of the reasons people hated her. This is one of the reasons people hated her. I mean, when Congressman Rick Crawford sat in that chair right there, the chair of the House Intel Committee, and he told us that when he partnered with Tulsi Gabbard and declassified these reports back when Devin Nunes was chair and Rick was working with Devin, and he said, I ruffled some feathers. You make enemies in the Intel community when you do that because they don't want this stuff out there. Because they don't want accountability. They don't want accountability. They're there to protect their massive surveillance state that's been weaponized against the American people and presidential candidates they don't like. And it's now currently being weaponized against us in ways that we can't even imagine. If you look across what these data centers, and I was listening to a committee in Arkansas, a committee hearing in Arkansas. A state representative was asking the chairman or the head of the economic development here in our state. He was asking, what are these data centers for? Still haven't got a clear answer on that. And the guy says, I don't know. We don't know what they're for. We just know they want to build them, basically. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that an incredible statement? Matter of fact, I'm going to find this right now because I know I saved it. Hang on one second. I'm going to find this for you guys. Let's see. It was from me. I sent myself an email. Here it is. Yeah. Let's see if we can't get this to where you guys can see it. I'll pull it up right here.
Part of the need or the purpose.
All right, this is State Representative in Arkansas, Jimmy Gazaway, questioning the Arkansas Economic Development Agency's knowledge about data centers. And yet we're prepared, states all across the country are prepared to offer these private companies millions, if not billions, in incentives.
Clint, I want to bring you back to the data centers. I know you've been in discussions with these companies, and obviously the rise of AI, I think, is fueling part of the need or the purpose for these data centers. But, in a lot of the reports I read, I'm not hearing, what is the clear purpose for a lot of these data centers? And in your conversations with the companies, what is their stated purpose? Are they simply collecting data on all of American citizens, everything from every phone call to social media interaction that we have, every advertisement that we view? It's all being collected and stored. So I guess generally my question is, what is the stated purpose that you're hearing in your meetings with data companies?
Yeah, I would say the conversations I've been a part of, we've really have not received that level of detail.
All right.
In the you heard that. The conversations I've been part of, we haven't received that detail. We haven't received the detail. We don't know what these, in some cases, they don't even know, folks, in some of these cases, they don't even know who the companies are. They're passing laws about, because the state has signed an NDA, they can't even tell you what company they're going to be giving the money to come in and spy on all of us. It's really, really insane. I mean, it's a level of insanity that the people are just not gonna take. I mean, I don't see how. I mean, building the infrastructure. Well, just think of it like this. I disagreed with Ron Paul at the time. So Ron Paul, back when he was running, and everybody wanted a border wall. This was a long time ago, back before Donald Trump capitalized on that Lou Dobbs messaging with the border, the late great Lou Dobbs. Ron Paul was warning that you put up a border wall, yeah, that's to keep people out, but it can also be used to keep you in. Many people look at what happened with COVID as a trial run. Some people look at it as an IQ test. But what if these data centers are eventually used for a level of mass surveillance to keep us all in our homes, to keep us from being able to go where we want to go without being punished with a social credit score or the universal basic income that they promise us? Elon Musk, as much as I like Elon Musk in some aspects, I don't trust the guy trying to, with the brain chip. No, thank you. He claims we're going to get, it's not universal basic income that we're all going to get. It's a high universal basic income that we're all going to have to look forward to. And of course, once that happens, they have the means of controlling us in so many different ways, because once you step out of line or go to the wrong website that they don't want you to go to, now your universal basic income is taken from you, or you're not allowed to, your social credit score isn't high enough to go on the subway or whatever. I don't know. I don't drive on the road. I mean, drive on a road in a rural town, because now the car you have has all of this, General Motors patents and Chevy, Ford patents that are going to read your biometrics. It's kind of wild, really, when you think about it, because it's all going to, unless we do something, it's all going to happen. Every bit of it's going to happen. And you know why? I mean, you know why I know it's going to happen? And I know that that God in heaven has a plan and can use what the enemy wants to do for evil. He uses it for good. He does that every single day. But this is how I know it's going to happen. Outside of just human nature and like knowing the totalitarian, depraved spirit of man, it's going to happen from recent results. I mean, it's kind of wild. I spent most of my radio career warning people about the government growing and becoming totalitarian. And, you had little instances of that happening. Think Lois Lerner in the IRS scandal back in the day, when Obama didn't like the Tea Party groups that were springing up after Rick Santelli, got on CNBC. Stop the spending, stop the spending, stop the spending. And so these Tea Party groups started electing Republicans and started flipping Democrat seats, especially in the Dixiecrat South. That was over in the Obama administration. And so then Lois Lerner, the IRS, starts targeting conservative groups. And you saw little instances of that. Hey, you said you started your meetings with prayer. What do you pray about? What do you pray about, you nasty Christians? But COVID proved all of us right. Anybody in that talk radio sphere, any of the people that have ever, whether they are controlled opposition or whether they were true to their convictions or whatever, anything, and this was a sphere that was largely aggregated by the Drudge Report back before the Drudge Report turned retarded. We were all saying that this is what the government will do when it grows too big, that they're going to use it against the American people, whether it was the surveillance state or whether it was, in this case, the medical industrial complex. Even Reagan, for all of his flaws, Reagan warns they're going to use socialized medicine to get in the door. And of course they did, because they continue to expand the entitlements. They continue to expand all of that stuff. They continue to get hospitals addicted to the money. They encourage the grift, the organized crime between hospitals and insurance companies and all of this stuff. And you have this giant system that's just running all this money, and everyone's being paid off. And then you have a global pandemic that's literally started by our own government via the EcoHealth Alliance or Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, funding Wuhan. Then you have the mail-in ballots. Then you have all this new stuff with China. We were all told we had to have potentially vaccine passports. Not everybody, but many people were. We were told that we were going to be denied health care if we didn't have a vax. People were fired, kicked out of the military for not getting vax. Then at the same time, you had people having adverse reactions to the vax, some even dying because of it. And we were all gaslit, told we were crazy. Then we had the mass, and in the midst of all of this, we had mass social media censorship, where if you said anything like this, you were canceled, you were kicked off. You had the massive, I don't know what day that was, but the day where everybody got nuked off of Twitter, back when Jack Dorsey owned it. I mean, we all witnessed what happened. We witnessed doctors having their license pulled, right? We witnessed, in terms of the 2020 stolen election, we witnessed attorneys that represented Trump getting disbarred, and getting punished, all for doing their jobs. Like, we literally saw the totalitarian aspects of our own government turning against the people, the thing that talk radio listeners and talk radio hosts like myself were preaching for decades. And I'm thinking of Rush Limbaugh. I'm thinking of Rush Limbaugh. And we saw it. And so now we're entering into a new phase where nobody's been held accountable for any of that stuff. Mark Zuckerberg got to make a deal, apparently, by confessing what he did. And weirdly enough, Facebook is now a place where I'm getting decent engagement. And I think they I don't know, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. But nobody's been held accountable for that. And so now the next phase is, wait a second, all these data centers, Project Stargate, go look it up. Silicon Valley got what they wanted for backing President Trump, and that's just part of it. But we're not being told what these data centers are for. And so now we're saying, okay, let's look at this. What kind of system they're actually setting up? Oh, it's going to be a system to further enslave us. It's going to be a system to stop dissent in its tracks. And so I know that is what's going to happen. Unless we stop it, it is the future. Just like we warned about the totalitarian aspects of government, and then COVID happened. It didn't happen. Nobody predicted exactly how it would happen, but all of these systems, this giant machine that had been built, specifically with healthcare, where your doctors that you trust were now just taking advice from Anthony Fauci, who is a pagan, anti-Christian man who himself is probably terrified to die one day and have to face his creator. Gives us all of these, remdesivir that shut people's kidneys down and is responsible for a lot of the deaths. Anyway, that's my rant. This is what we are going to face, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't do something. Let me look at your comments. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be overly negative. I'm not blackpilling. Again, I said at the beginning of the rant, the Lord is in control. God, the God of heaven is in control of all of this. But we need to admit that those of us on the right were correct. Over the last, 26 years, the right has been correct in warning about what happens when the government grows as big as it has, what it's able to do to the population in a crisis. I mean, see Hurricane Katrina for little examples. We're going to confiscate your guns, that sort of thing. Dave 357 Mag writes, if we don't end this all, and with violence, he says, unfortunately, it's going to worsen a lot. Well, I'm not surprised that somebody, Dave 357 Mag, that's your take on it. But we've covered this before. People talk and whisper about a civil war or something like this, and the cold civil war that we're in. And, you have people on the left that were so outraged when the Supreme Court came down with their ruling on gerrymandering. You can't have racially based districts. And so then the states, the southern red states, Christian red states, go to take away Memphis' seat, or they go to take away Louisiana's, gerrymandered black districts. And everybody's like, I can't believe you would do this. And he's like, no, left. You don't understand what's actually going on here. What's actually going on is a last gasp effort to try to fix this within the confines of the system that we have. Because what these states did redoing their districts, and the ones that are going to continue to do that, it's completely legal to do. My whole life, thanks to the Civil War, the southern states have had to politic with one arm tied behind our back by the courts mandating how we can apportion our representation. And so now we finally can do what New England has been doing my entire life. But it's a last gasp effort to try to say we don't want to live under your ideas. We don't want to live with your ideas. And if you don't like it, maybe you should go to a liberal state where you can live under those ideas. That's what this is. That's what all of this is. And this is all taking place in the confines of the Republican Party, which is a coalition party. It is a party that really kind of reflects the way the whole country used to be when you had Democrats and Republicans that would somewhat agree on some things other than war in the Middle East, or other than the Federal Reserve needing to stay just like it is. That's the only thing the parties agree on now. But the Republican Party now, really think about the Republican Party now with all of its coalitions, is rejecting the craziness of the left. The Republican Party is the America we grew up in terms of where the debate is to be had. It's the only party where you actually can have a debate. Unfortunately, the party is totally co-opted by the donors, which is why we still to this day don't have a bill that's been passed through House, Senate, signed by the president saying that medically mutilating the genitals of kids in the name of health care will be illegal. But we still don't have that. We have an executive order that's fantastic, but we don't actually have it codified into law. It's because the donors don't want it. They don't want it, folks. And this is why, if you're a young person and you're listening to this, in the meantime, we've got to fight. We got to do battle with primaries and within the Republican Party, the way we've got to do battle, right? But if you're a young person and you're listening to this, because I agree with it, the best thing you can do, other than go to church, walk with the Lord, marry a good woman, have kids, subdue the earth, go forth, multiply. Other than that, in your profession, be as good at that profession as you can and acquire wealth and acquire a lot of it so that you can then be influential. I mean, this is now what is obvious, like the only real way to be influential. We just need billionaires in the confines of this system, and maybe this is a total pipe dream, but we really need billionaires who are on our side, are truly on our side, that truly understand what this country was and what has to happen. The only way they're going to listen is with money. Tom Tillis said it. Tom Tillis literally said it yesterday when Sarah Gonzalez was like, you're against the SAVE Act because you've taken all this money from labor groups that want illegal immigration for jobs. And he says, who are these groups? She named the people that have donated to his campaign $700,000. And his response was, you think that is, for lack of I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically like, you think that would sway me? Only $700,000. You think that's what would sway my vote? He's admitting that he does have a price. And that's the thing. All these people have a price. And so we've got to be real with it. We've got to be real with what it is, the battle that we're actually fighting. Elon Musk. Okay. A billionaire that agrees with us. So somebody in the chat says Elon Musk. Well, you can make the argument. But what did we do to Elon Musk? We collectively, what did they ran him out of D.C. after 5 months. They ran him out of D.C. after 5 months, and they refused to listen to his ideas because because they're all corrupt. So, I mean, maybe, and I'm just talking myself in circles here, even that aspect of it, trying to find somebody that agrees with us that has a lot of money that can, I mean, even that aspect of it, if you don't have a means to actually put these corrupt politicians in jail, this is a great idea. When we need to look at this, I need to do this in the history of America, like prominent politicians that actually go to jail. Prominent national politicians that actually go to jail. When's the last time that it's happened? Is Mendez going to jail, the New Jersey senator for the gold bars? I don't even know. Maybe he's the latest one, but I don't even know the status of that case. Mendez, right? Isn't that his name? I can't remember his first name. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on the things that we have to worry about. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Real quick, some of these documents. The CCP, China used CCP assets in the U.S. media and social media to incite 2020's Black Lives Matter uprising. We wondered why people all of a sudden lost their fear of COVID. Well, dollar signs, that's what. China had extensive plans to utilize potential redacted and cyber operations to sway public opinion against the Trump administration and international opinions against the U.S. government. The China plans were designed to exploit U.S. societal fissures and vulnerabilities, to influence U.S. and other audiences, and by extension, U.S. government decision-making. The plans address several scenarios, including military conflict between the U.S. and China, as well as other potential crises. White people alleging racial tensions, or alleging white people hate black people, inciting demonstrations and marches. Sounds just like Black Lives Matter. Of course, we know the people that started Black Lives Matter ended up being very wealthy. Here's the clip, though. Hillary Clinton, she basically said all of everything we discovered. She was begging China to do it. She told us the playbook.
You know, the only other adversary of ours who's anywhere near as good as the Russians is China. So why should Russia have all the fun? And since Russia is clearly backing Republicans, why don't we ask China to back us?
I hereby tonight ask China.
That's right. And not only that, China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? I'm sure our media would richly reward you.
Wow, man. That's crazy. It's kind of it hits different now, doesn't it? Of course, we now know, thanks to Tulsi Gabbard and Congressman Rick Crawford, we actually know that Russia had dirt on Hillary Clinton, wanted Hillary to win. We know that the whole Russia paradigm with Republicans was completely ridiculous and was a fake intel assessment ordered by Obama. We now know this. We've got documents that prove this. Russia had blackmail on Hillary Clinton, that she was essentially possessed by a demon. You go read the document. Though she was prone to fits of violent rage and totally unpredictable, it literally reads like she was possessed by a demon. Begging a foreign country to hack Donald Trump's tax returns. Yeah. So, who's going to go to jail? Who's going to go to jail? Who? Because if arrests or none of this matters. Arrests or, honestly, arrest somebody or arrest somebody or it never happened. It never happened. It never happened. Oh, my goodness. That's where I'm at with it all. All right, so taking a little bit of a break here. We have this. Let's see here. What qualifications? So this is Maine Democrat Ashley Webb. So this is. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. They'll let anybody run for Congress. Maine Democrat Ashley Webb in the debate the other night.
Ashley Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books. And then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people, and I wouldn't deceive the people like we're being deceived right now. Like,
lay off me, I'm starving. Lay off me, I'm starving. You remember the old Chris Farley? Yeah, so that's a man in a dress who is, you know what? If people in Maine do not vote for this man in a dress, they are transphobic. I just can't imagine why you would want to. Honestly, though, I wish Rob were here because, he says that the whole trans thing is mental illness. Come on, look at this again.
Ashley Webb, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books. And then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people. And
yeah, so I think you just kind of can have an intuition about things. It does look like somebody who's a little mentally unstable. I don't know, what do you guys think? Just a little bit of mentally unstable there. What do you think? Here's more from President Trump last night.
The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned, they couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes.
So, this is up to Todd Blanche, is what we're being told here. The Senate is not going to, I don't think they're going to do anything with this. I don't think this is going to get the SAVE Act passed. I really don't believe it will. I could be wrong. I think Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act and should secure elections. And I would hope that if he does that, he goes after all the voting machines, every single one of them. And he better do it now. And then it's going to get challenged in the Supreme Court. And you're going to have to produce you're going to, you've got the evidence now you can give to the court saying, look, this is why it's necessary. Congress refuses to act. This is a matter of national security. Is Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Roberts going to go along with it? Probably not. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know, but I think that's what is being set up here. This has been my prediction from day one, that this is part of the process. Maybe there's even more smoking guns out there that show votes. The problem is with these machines that, from what I know from Dr. Paquette, when they do switch votes, there's a lot of ways to erase evidence that actually occurred. And again, I wish I knew the ins and outs. The fact that I don't, and this may be a terrible argument, but it just means that it's so complex, and the more complex a system is, the more opportunity there is for corruption, because the less people understand it, the easier it is to conspire outside of the law, against the law. That's the whole point.
Targeting were kept. NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found bags that were used to destroy information.
I'm going to reset here, and I'm going to take a quick break. But before we do, I do want to tell you about our newest sponsor on the program. And believe it or not, what's really cool about this, you heard about this yesterday when we talked to Matt Troy. And I'm talking about the Healing Veterans Project. So we talked to Matt Troy the other day, and he has started and launched the Healing Veterans Project. I'm now. This is actually something that me and Matt are actually doing together, and I'm going to do everything I can to help veterans and help the troops get this photobiomodulation that they desperately need. That's been prescribed by a doctor, and it has been denied by the VA. Here's the website. Let me throw it up here on the screen for you so you can see it. We can kind of go over some of this. But basically, restoring the lives of those who served. The goal of the Healing Veterans Project is to deploy medical-grade photobiomodulation, which is red light therapy that you hear me talk about all the time, into the homes of U.S. veterans at no cost to them. So these are people that are suffering from PTSD. These are veterans who are suffering from nerve damage. And the VA, and I know the VA does good things, but the VA is so quick to prescribe any sort of pharmaceutical medication, whether it's opioids or whatever, but they don't want to recognize photobiomodulation, which is a science that can actually help those who were willing to die. It's the Healing Veterans Project, and you can go to healingveteransproject.us. That's healingveteransproject.us, and then you click on the donate button, and now you can decide, do you want to give a one-time donation, or do you want to give a monthly donation, quarterly or annual? And this is, honestly, the project has just launched in the last couple of days. And so in the future, there's going to be perks and stuff like that and more incentives. But we're going to get this. This is a nonprofit organization, so it is tax deductible. And you're going to hear me talking a lot about the Healing Veterans Project in the really in the foreseeable future. So go there now if you want to check it out, you want to consider, or if you know somebody. If you know somebody that has a heart for veterans and also understands the medical industrial complex, big pharma pipeline hamster wheel that they want to get not just veterans but everybody on, but specifically veterans. I mean, veterans, they're still using mercury in the military when it comes to dental amalgams. I mean, they're kind of the last to get on board the modern technology that's out there. So I want you to consider donating. Please do. And it's going to be really neat once we get the funds raised that we need to get raised to start marking these veterans off the list. There is a long list of veterans that have been prescribed these red light panels by a doctor, but they're not able to afford them. So think about healing a veteran today at the healingveteransproject.us. That's healingveteransproject.us. We're going to take a break, reset here, and we're going to be back in just a moment.
This is our family dog, Bubba. He is a Shorty Jack Russell, and he brings a lot of love and laughter into our home. We just want to thank Pet Club for making healthy food and treats for our animals. Bubba has been on Pet Club food for a little over a year now. He really likes the Sequoia dry food, and then I put a scoop of the Sequoia wet dog food in there with some hot water and stir it up, and he absolutely loves it. And he likes the mush puppies, but his ultimate favorite is the antlers. Those keep him busy for a really long time, and he really likes them. It makes us feel really good that the food and treats that we give him have healthy ingredients in them because we want him to be around for a really long time. Our previous dog was a lab, and his name was Titus, and we fed him in bulk, and we would just get his food from the big box grocery stores. And unfortunately, that food wasn't very healthy for him, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So we didn't want to make that mistake with Bubba, so we were really fortunate to find Pet Club and find some really healthy food for him to eat. So we would just like to thank Pet Club, and we just really appreciate the healthy food that they make so we can keep this guy around as long as we can.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
I had 5 units that I purchased for the practice right out of the chute. Well, those went the first week that I got back to Houston. So then we ordered another 5 and then another 5. And I think over the next, 6 to 8 weeks, we had ordered like 35 units. And they're gone. They're still gone out of the practice. So we're excited about moving more of these units for our patients because they need them. And so when you bring in new technology and your staff's thinking, oh, this is another thing that I need to handle during the day, I think it's a good idea to give them a little incentive. And I do it as a team. So if one person does well, the whole team does well. So they all support each other. And they got really excited about that. They love it. They'll bring a unit in, turn it on, put it on the patient's foot or leg, and they'll tell the patients, be sure to talk to Dr. Parker about red light therapy. And the patient will say, red light therapy, yeah, I've heard of that, And so I'll walk in and my nurse is she'll tell me, I've spoken to Mrs. Jones about this red light therapy, and she's really excited about it. So Red Vive has been fantastic for our bottom line.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Welcome back, folks. As we wind things down on this Friday, really appreciate you being with us, sticking with us. So yesterday on the program, I wish Rob were here, I wish Eric were here, but I don't care. I've gotten the biggest kick out of cutting this video up. Yesterday on the show, I had to leave the show at the last minute. I had to step out because something was bothering me. Because I felt like it was relevant to what we were talking about, and so I had to go. And if you guys were watching yesterday, you've already seen it, but we were talking about the Odyssey and what actually took place, and this is how it went. This is that in the trailer and everything, people are looking at the costumes and they're just saying, this is so basic. This doesn't look like, they don't look like Greek costumes. There's no intricacy. There's no artwork in any of that. And on that, okay, I've got to go show you something, Rob. I'm going to be right back. I need you to vamp.
Okay.
I just got to go to the car and I got to grab something.
Okay, I can't wait to see this.
Okay,
this is going to be incredible. I'll be glad to do this. What the hell have you got, Paul?
Hang on.
What is this?
Hang on, I gotta connect this back up for a second. Sorry, I had to run to the car. So speaking of costumes and things just that are not
Listen, you're gonna need to hit some cardio here if you're that breathing hard here.
Come on, man. Come on. I mean, I'll be real. Rob that's an appropriate dig. I do need to be on the treadmill a lot more than I am. But anyway, the reason I'm re-airing this is for what comes next. No, I was running for you as you were vamping. So this is Andruil, the sword of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
Okay, Paul, I was literally just telling our audience how cool you are and how awesome of a dude you are, and now you got a sword.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was a birthday present that I received.
Who got you this for your birthday?
One of my sister-in-law.
Oh, well, that's nice of her.
And my brother-in-law.
Is it sharp?
My point, not yet, but it's going to be, and it will forever be in my family.
What the?
It'll forever be in my family. It'll be passed down to my bloodline.
Listen,
my Anglo-Saxon bloodline forever.
This is an appropriate follow-up to this ridiculous rap that they've done here.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the
it's
follow-up?
an insult to your sword.
It is appropriate. No, my point is even on like these replicas or whatever, you can't see it.
It's got elvish.
Yeah. I mean, when they made my point is when they made Lord of the Rings, especially if you get the remastered 4K version where they went back and took 4K shots of the original negatives of the movie. Okay. You can see such intricate design in the costumes. They took this thing so seriously. Matter of fact, the designers put stuff on the inside that they knew that would never see, just to make the actors think that the movie was, more real, to be more ensconced in the characters.
Yeah.
They have fallen so far off, and everybody was so stoked because Nolan is this accomplished director and everything.
Oh yeah, The Dark Knight.
But he was handed the woke quota list where you had to make Helen of Troy black, and then you had to make up a part for a trans person, and a woman who thinks that she's a man. And I don't know. I've been meaning to bring this up. This was the perfect opportunity. I've been meaning to actually bring this on the air.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to put it behind. I'm going to put it somewhere back there,
dude.
But yeah,
I think you should put it at home.
No,
out of sight.
No, my wife doesn't know where we would put it. I was like, I'm going to hang this on the wall because it comes with like a wall.
Listen,
mount.
can I hold it? I want to see.
Yes, maybe. Yes, go ahead. It's not
Okay,
bad,
this is
right?
this is heavier than I thought it would be.
Yes. Yeah, isn't that cool?
Listen, I don't speak Elvish.
Yeah, I know, but isn't that cool? Listen to the sound.
Wait a minute. No, I mean you can't. Oh.
No. The sound of when you pull it. See that sound? That's the part right there. The part, that's what, I'm sorry, I should have had it clipped shorter so you didn't have to retread everything. That's the part right there where Rob misunderstands me and tries to listen to the sword like it's a seashell. Rob tried to listen to the sword like it was a seashell. Let's play that one more time, shall we?
This is heavier than I thought it would be.
Yes. Yeah, isn't that cool?
Listen, I don't speak Elvish.
Yeah, I know, but isn't that cool? Listen to the sound.
Wait a minute. No, I mean you can't. Oh.
No. He's going to be so mad at me for giving him the business while he's not even here to defend himself. But, I'm sorry. I had to do that. Oh, and, here it is. It's made its debut. I mean, it's just leaned up against this ledge right here, I think it looks pretty cool there. I thought about putting it in the back there, but we've got sponsorship logos that kind of like made me have to crop the screen a little bit right now. And so, I don't know. I'm just thinking, I thought about over here, but then the mic's in the way. But right here, it's just like, boom, there it is. I can grab it if I need to. So the studio has visible protection if we're ever invaded. Ebenezer Studios, which, by the way, that's the name of the studio. Ebenezer Studios is protected visibly. We're also protected invisibly as well. But there it is. That's the new edition, and I like it. I like it a lot. So anyway, it makes me happy. For all of you guys out there, think about it. The next time your wife asks you, "What do you want for your birthday, honey?" Consider saying, "Man, you know what would really be cool to get a sword." Now, I obviously think The Lord of the Rings are the greatest movies ever made, the zenith of Hollywood filmmaking that we'll never see again. But you may have maybe there's a Conan the Barbarian sword or something, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your thing is. Maybe you want, I don't know, maybe you want a William Wallace sword. I wanted Aragorn's sword, and now that I've got it, I kind of want the other ones. There are other swords in that universe that I kind of want too. So now I've got like the collection bug, and so maybe over the next couple of birthdays or whatever, I'll have amassed some more swords. Anyway, let me know what you think about it. So now is the time in the show, because it's Friday. We haven't done this in a while. I know I wasn't available last Friday. Now's the time of the show when I remind you that this is the weekend. I hope you have a blessed weekend. And I just want to remind you to go to church. If you don't go to church, consider finding a church that preaches the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save sinners, to save lost sheep. If you do go to church, I hope you have a blessed Lord's Day, and we will see you back here on Monday, and we'll be covering whatever else has happened over the weekend. God bless everybody out there watching, and we'll see you soon.